backfield. Can they do it again? Yes, they can!
And the catch is made by Taj Washington. Touchdown, USC.
Blocked by Embiid! Timmy, yes!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Upfront podcast here on Pig Swap Media. Host Ryan Coyle, joined by Joey the Jet and Tony Harding as we continue our March Madness coverage. We're ripping through the East region now on this one. I've already done the West. We'll be doing we did the Midwest, and we'll be doing the West and the South and one big bracket reveal as well. So going to be ripping through the East region here, going game by game in the first round, and then eventually giving our Elite Eight picks and who we're sending to the Final Four. So welcome back to the show, fellas. Excited for this episode. How are we?
Good, man. Ready to watch some tournament hoops.
Fantastic.
I've been excited, yeah.
So for the East region, I've been giving them all nicknames. I'm giving this one called the region of the season of surprises. When you look at Purdue, not much was expected from them this year. Duke brought in a bunch of highly ranked guys, but it was kind of unknown with Coach Shire in there now and a bunch of young guys. Not really sure what this team would be. They eventually win the ACC tournament. You got a 30-win Florida Atlantic team, a Providence team that was picked up towards the bottom of the Big East, Kansas State team that was projected to finish last in the Big 12, a Marquette team who's the 2 seed who was projected to finish 9th, I believe, in the Big East. I mean, all these teams have outperformed their expectations from the beginning of the season. So a bunch of surprises. We'll see who eventually emerges. We start at the top with number 1 Purdue versus the winner of number 16 Texas Southern or FDU. 6:50 tip-off on Friday night on TNT. Before we get into the eventual breakdown of why Purdue will win, who do you guys have winning the Texas Southern versus FDU game? Tony, start us off there.
I'll go Texas Southern here. I think it'll help them. I remember them in the tournament. I don't know if it was last year. They won their playing game, so they have some guys with experience around. The team's been there before, program, everything. So I just think they'll have an upper hand over a team who didn't even win conference tournament. So
yeah, I agree. I'm going Texas Southern as well. I can't pick FDU. It's the stupidest rule ever that the NCAA has. Like, they didn't win. They finished in third place in the conference because they didn't even let Stonehill enter the tournament, who was the second place team, and then they don't even win the conference tournament title game. FDU shouldn't be here. I think Texas Southern's going to beat them. They had a really great run in the SWAC tournament. They were the 8th seed there. So give me the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going to go Texas Southern too. If FDU does beat Texas Southern, Purdue might beat them by 100. Last week I was listening to a show. FDU's average height on the roster is 6'1". And I think their tallest guy on the roster might be 6'6". So Zach Edey might have 40 in the first half and then from there on out. But I do think Texas Southern will beat FDU. I'm not going to sit here like we know much about either of those teams, but we both got Purdue eventually rolling it over Texas Southern, right, boys?
yeah, definitely. I don't see. I mean, imagine me guarding Zach Edey. Lunch.
Well, you're a 1,000-point scorer. It says behind you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, Purdue rolling in that one, but I don't think that they are going to make a very deep run. I think they're too reliant on one guy, and that kind of gets exposed. But we'll get into a little bit more about Purdue as we go on throughout the show. The next matchup, the 8-9 game, one of the best games of the tournament here. And there's probably like 4 or 5 games where I was really just stuck there thinking, all right, might as well just flip a coin to pick. And I feel like those games are always where wherever team you wind up picking, it goes the opposite direction anyway. So this one I'm excited for. I guess you could call Memphis a mid-major technically for being in the American, but you got number 8 Memphis versus number 9 FAU, Florida Atlantic out of the Conference USA. 9:20 on TNT on Friday night. Memphis is a 2.5-point favorite here, over under 151. Kmetz, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm going Memphis here. Kind of just FAU had a great season. 30 wins is fantastic. Not trying to take anything away from them, but if they had gotten any other team on the 8 or 9 line, I would be picking FAU. But this was the one team, when I saw Memphis getting FAU, I thought it was a tough matchup for the Owls. Give me Memphis here. I think Penny Hardaway has something to prove, especially after Jeff Goodman was questioning earlier in the year if he was the guy for the job. And I think Memphis could definitely give Purdue a scare in the round of 32. They gave Gonzaga a scare last year as well.
Tony?
Yeah, I think it's a really like a testament to how good Memphis is that they get a 8 seed out of that conference. I mean, they did beat Houston there in the title game. I just think FAU, 30-win season, great. It's just Memphis is so athletic playing. That's their brand, They fly up and down the court, and they have all these athletes all over the place. And I don't think FAU, their best win on the season I was looking is Florida. So you don't know how battle tested they are. Give me Memphis here.
And I know like the metrics and stuff were like in favor of them, but like resume wise, looking at it, like I didn't see really that big of a difference between them and Charleston. So I was surprised to see, Charleston at the 12, Florida Atlantic at the 9. They're another team where people that haven't really, I guess, paid attention to much to college basketball this year. You see 31-3, I believe, is the record next to their name. People are gonna be, well, let's take them. But I don't think that's a smart move in this one. I do like Memphis. A fascinating game just because we don't really know that much about FAU. You're lying if you say you're sitting down and watching every Owls game, but I do like Memphis to win this game, and then I do like them to beat Purdue. I think Purdue is the 1 seed that slips up on the first weekend like we see every year. Memphis really impressed me against Houston. Watched that game from start to finish yesterday. I know they didn't have Marcus Sasser out there, but still, that was a pretty dominant performance from start to finish. And when you have a guard like Kendrick Davis who can score 30-plus any given time out there, that can carry you multiple rounds, and he's going to be by far the best guard in that matchup eventually against Purdue if it comes to it. And this is a Memphis team that has experience from last year's tournament where they beat Boise State and took Gonzaga to the wire as well. So I'm going to take that experience combined with their talent to beat FAU and then eventually beat Purdue as well. All right, number 5, Duke versus number 12, Oral Roberts, 7:10 on CBS on Thursday night. Primetime game there for the Dukies. First tournament under John Shire. Duke comes in as -6.5, over under 145.5. I'll throw this one over to you first, Tony.
Yeah, I cringed a little bit when I saw Oral Roberts as the matchup for my Duke Blue Devils, but I mean, I think Duke is just playing too hot. Like they kind of got some confidence back where they're walking in the gym now, understanding who they are. I saw that they're 17-1 when fully healthy on the season, and I think the emergence of Derek Lively has been huge for Duke as he's an elite NBA level rim protector in there. And then along with, they got to move Jeremy Roach off the ball a bit. So he's able to, become more of a scorer with Tyrese Proctor now playing point guard. I think it's going to be a tough game for Duke to win. Duke can't play a bad game and win this one, but I'll still go with my Blue Devils.
Kmetz?
Yeah, Tony, I completely agree. I'm going Duke here. Only thing I'll say, just to add on, I'm taking the winner of this game to beat Tennessee in the round of 32. 100%. We'll get to that game.
Either team.
Yeah, for sure. Either one of these teams is going to beat Tennessee, I think. I just think this is one of those games, like I already said it earlier, if Oral Roberts got any other 5 seed, I would have taken Oral Roberts, but this is just a tough matchup.
Right.
Them getting Duke. Duke's a really good team. They're playing their best basketball right now. I will say it's interesting how many people are taking Duke to go deep, but I still think they're going to make a pretty good run. Give me the Blue Devils here.
Yeah.
I'm going to ride with Duke as well. This should be a really fun game, though, and another one of those games where I think it's pretty close throughout, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Duke kind of cover that 6.5 towards the end on some free throws. We know Oral Roberts had some magic back a few years ago with Max Asmus. He's back, but that was in the 2021 bracket, and that year was just such an anomaly. I think you had a 15 seed make it, an 8 seed, a 12 seed, an 11 seed, an 11 seed, a 6, and a 7 all make the Sweet 16. And that was back when everything was in one location in Indianapolis. There was like reduced crowds. It was just not normal how we see it. And I think that's why you saw a bunch of upsets. You saw freaking Oregon State go to the Elite Eight as well. So,
Right.
And a lot of
I think like for the people who like to watch college hoops, I think predetermined going into the tournament, like a lot of people had Oral Roberts as they were probably going to have them winning a game. Like I did before the bracket came out, and they ran into Duke, who's like probably playing at like a top 10 level right now in the country.
Yeah, and certainly playing their best, and they've always been a top 5, probably talent-wise team in the country, but it just took some time to put the pieces together. And this team, even though they have this Oral Roberts team, even though they have A. Smith back, they don't have Kevin O'Banner, who they had back in that run as well. He was a very good player who's been a pretty good player at Texas Tech too. Duke is young, but they're the hottest team in the country right now, in my opinion. So I'm going to take them here. I think Oral Roberts, maybe like first half, gives them a scare. Take like a Oral Roberts first half money line, probably get that at pretty good value. Maybe it'll be like 32, 31, something around there at half. But then Duke, I think, kind of figures it out, calms down, and is able to have a good second half and kind of pull away there.
Yep.
All right, we go to the number 4 seed, Tennessee versus number 13, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns there. 9:40 on CBS on Thursday night. Tennessee minus 10.5 here, over under 136.5. Joe, give us your thoughts on this matchup.
Listen, Lord, if you've been watching this show for as long as I've been on, I hate Tennessee basketball. I do. I don't think they're a good team. I think Rick Barnes is an overrated coach. That being said, and especially losing Ziegler, I mean, that's huge, but I just can't. I can't pick the Cajuns here. The Cajuns don't really make me go, oh shit! Like Tennessee got a tough draw in the first round. Tennessee is probably thanking the committee right now that they got Louisiana. I think they're going to be able to sneak by. I think 10.5 is a bit too much, just because I don't think Tennessee really has the talent now without Ziegler there to really blow anyone out, but I still think they'll be able to get by the Cajuns and go on to the round of 32, where, like I said earlier, they will lose to either Duke or Oral Roberts.
Yeah, I'm going to – I think this is a place in a bracket here where you could really take a stab at like a long shot upset. Like all the metrics, everything really point towards Tennessee as just they could win playing a really bad game. They still could get a win here. But I think with Duke and Oral Roberts at the 5-12 matchup, they're going to run into them. I think I don't think Tennessee beats either of those teams. So I think it's a good place you could take a stab here if you don't want a team to blow up your bracket. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Louisiana. Joe was alluding to it with Ziegler out. They just aren't what they were in the beginning of the year. They don't really have an offensive identity now. So I'm going to take a stab here and go with Louisiana.
Yeah, that's like one thing, just looking at the bracket. Like, I know we're only doing the East region, but like looking at all the regions, like if you're like dead set on just say Duke winning no matter who, if they play Tennessee or Louisiana, like might as well take like Louisiana if you're doing it your bracket or you're just like betting it like money wise, just like take them straight up at that point, because if you have them losing in the next round anyway, what's it really matter? I mean, same thing with like St. Mary's, if you have VCU being St. Mary's, and then you think UConn is going to beat St. Mary's no matter what in the next round potentially. Same thing with like Miami or Kent State, like that. Those games, Drake, Indiana in there, like there's a bunch where you're saying, Tony, like take a stab at it, and I think this could be.
That's what I like to do. I mean, me personally, like I'm not the type of person when filling out a bracket where I'm going to have like a St. Peter's in the Elite Eight. Like that's not going to happen when I'm filling out a bracket. Mm-hmm. But I do like to take stabs, 1 or 2 each region, just because I know I don't like the higher seed to make it past the next round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like that logic too, and especially if you're competing for a bracket, you might be able to get one of those upsets that 90% of the other people aren't taking.
Yep.
But I do like Tennessee to win this one, as Joe was saying. As much as we've kind of talked about them all year, I think this is a good matchup for them. I watched the Sun Belt title game with Louisiana, and I didn't come away very impressed with them. And I think you have to kind of take that with a I guess a little extra emphasis just based on how bad we've talked about Tennessee all year, and we're still taking them to win in this one. The Cajuns shoot a lot of long twos, like so many shots around like the foul line area and like beyond in between the 3-point line, like just a lot of inefficient shots, and they do most of their damage around the rim with forward Jordan Brown. He's a very good player. He was impressive. He averages 19.4 points per game, but I think he benefits from playing against Sun Belt level players. You're going to be the most physically imposing guy out there every time. Now you're going against Tennessee, where I remember this is what we said at the beginning of the year when we were doing the preview episodes on the SEC. Like, Tennessee has a basketball team built like football players, but that eventually comes back to haunt them when they can't shoot the ball in the tournament. Brown's also only 4 of 16 from the year for the year from 3-point range. So does most of his damage around the hoop. Tennessee's got the bodies to throw at him. I think they're able to contain him in this one. But I think this might be my favorite under of the tournament. 136.5 here. I could see this being like a 60 to 50 type game, just real low scoring, physical. And like I said, Louisiana shoots a lot of like long range twos. They are a pretty good 3-point shooting team. They shoot like 37%, but they're only taking like 18 threes a game. Some of those top like 10 teams are shooting like 27 and above threes. So this is a team that's not going to really, I think, hurt you much from deep. If they do, they're only going to make like 7 or 8. They might do it efficiently, but I just think Tennessee kind of matches up. This is a good matchup for them. But then they get Duke the next round, who has shown the ability to either blow you out like they did Pitt, score high level like they did against Miami, or win a close, lower scoring game like they did against Virginia. So Duke can kind of do it all. Tennessee is only going to be able to beat you in these low scoring affairs.
Correct.
All right, now my favorite game of this bracket, or this part of the bracket, this region, number 6 Kentucky versus number 11 Providence, who ended the year on a slide. 7:10 on CBS on Friday night. So you got 7:10 on Thursday, you got Duke, and 7:10 on Friday night, you got Kentucky. So throwing those two bad boys in the prime time. Kentucky's a 3.5-point favorite here, over under 145. A few weeks ago, it wasn't known if Kentucky would even make the tournament, and now here they are, all the way up as a 6 seed. Kmetz, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm going Kentucky here. And it's kind of just Coyle what you're already saying here. The momentum, coming out of Kentucky is crazy. A couple weeks ago, they were right on the bubble. Lenardi had them right around like that last 4-in spot. Now they're all the way up as a 6. Providence is on a complete, downturn. Not playing very good basketball right now. If it wasn't for that big comeback where they almost beat UConn, I mean, they were down 25 at one point in the Big East quarterfinal. The Friars just aren't playing good basketball. Kentucky is playing good basketball. I think they're going to take those 2 losses to Vandy at the end of their, regular season and conference tournament to heart. I think Cal's been working them pretty hard. I think they're going to come out and handle Providence pretty well. And I just don't know if Providence is going to score more than 60 points. This is a Providence team that I'm really not feeling. So give me Kentucky.
I'm rolling with Kentucky too, Joe. This was another game. We talked about it in the Midwest region where I said I had Indiana when I first filled it out. I flipped it to Kent State. It's another one where I had Providence. I've now flipped it to Kentucky. It was a major toss-up, probably one of the 5 hardest games to pick in the opening round. Providence, though, playing their worst of the season. They've lost 4 out of 5, and Kentucky playing, as you touched on, Joe, their best of the season against teams not named Vanderbilt. They're 5-7. They've won 5 of their last 7, with 2 of those losses coming against Vandy. So on Haslam metrics, they provide this momentum metric, and Providence ranks as 322nd in the country out of 363 teams in momentum. So certainly not playing their best ball. And then when you look at Kentucky, they're ranked 59th in the momentum metric. So a pretty large disparity there. 2 teams going in opposite directions. I don't know what Vanderbilt has really done to get under Kentucky's skin and get the best of them, but maybe Providence tries to emulate some of that stuff in their game plan this week. And I'm also, while picking Kentucky, I'm a little bit worried that Ed Cooley is able to outcoach Coach Cal in this one, but I do think there's a ton of pressure on Kentucky. They can't not win the first round game. And this also opens the door, I think, for Ed Cooley to have a reason to leave Providence and eventually go on to become the head coach at Georgetown. If they lose this game, I could see it kind of being like last year when Kevin Willard lost to Seton Hall and the next morning he was the head coach at Maryland. I think it could be something like that where Ed Cooley's like, all right, I think I reached my my ceiling here. Kind of saw it, I guess, down the stretch when they've started to decline a bit. And I think he leaves for Georgetown after this game, after a Kentucky eventual win. So give me the Wildcats there.
Yeah, I'm going to go opposite you guys here. I'm going to take Providence. I think using this break here before the tournament, I think they could use their downturns to swing back up as as like a motivator. I think Providence has the best two players on the court in Hopkins, and then probably one of the best real unknown players in college basketball is Devin Carter.
What about Oscar?
Oscar.
What?
You see, I think Providence plays great bigs all year.
Sure.
I mean, the Big East is loaded with guys who are really talented scorers inside. They might not have Sheway's motor, but I think I think Providence is pretty battle tested. Where Kentucky, those losses to Vandy worry me. There's no reason they should be losing to them, and they honestly were the sole reason that Vanderbilt was even mentioned come tournament time
on the bubble.
I don't know. I think the two best players on the court could get a win for them. I actually like Providence to win in the next round as well. I don't know. I just have a gut feeling about them. They're probably my gut feeling team here. So it would be probably Providence over Kentucky and then Providence over the winner of Kansas State, Montana State.
All right. Tony going with the upset there, the Friars. I certainly wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Kentucky's been, I think they're kind of like North Carolina for me, at least most of the year, where every time I picked them to win, they would lose. Every time I would pick them to lose, they would win. Like, just never got a good
Can't
feel.
Get a feel for them, yeah.
Yeah, so who knows? But I also wouldn't surprise me to see them in a few weeks down at Madison Square Garden playing for a trip to the Final Four. Talent's there. Just will they be able to kind of bring it all together? I think this next game is one of the games I'm looking forward to the least out of the entire bracket. Just not a very appealing matchup. That's number 3, Kansas State versus number 14, Joe's Montana State Bobcats. 9:40 on Friday night on CBS. Might be a little too drunk for this one. It might not even make it up for this entire game. But Kansas State minus 8.5, over under 139. Joe, do you think your Bobcats can win this one?
No, I don't. I won't lie to you. My Wildcats big here. The 8.5 I think is crazy. I would definitely hammer Kansas State. It's kind of been what I've been saying all year. The Big 12 gets you ready for the tournament. Kansas State and Coyle, kind of like what we were talking about last week in the conference tournament previews, a team like Kansas State that lost to TCU in that quarterfinal round and had a little bit of rest, and they now get to get away from the Big 12 a little bit. I think that's going to do them wonders. I don't think they're going to lose to Montana State. I don't think it's going to be close, in all honesty. Some of these other, games against the lower seeds, you can kind of see it maybe being a battle. I think Kansas State's going to dominate this thing from tip to finish. Give me the Wildcats.
Yeah, I like Kansas State here as well. Probably big. I probably won't even watch this game. Like, maybe I'll click to it. Kansas State, at first, at the beginning of the year, I wondered, like, how are they this good? They're just physical. And they're led by a little 5'7", Marquise Noel playing the point, and then the Florida transfer, Keontae Johnson. So, I mean, I don't think Montana State has played a team anywhere similar to Kansas State this year. So, in Kansas State, I mean, very successful year in the Big 12, so I'll go with them here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying when we were talking in the Midwest about Drake playing Miami. Like, Drake did beat Mississippi State earlier in the year, but that was the best team that they saw. They haven't seen a guard combo like Isaiah Long and Nigel Pack all year in the Missouri Valley Conference. And I think same thing here. Like, Montana State has not seen Keontae Johnson up close. And even though Marquise Noel's tiny little guy, he's going to blow right by you, and he can shoot the 3-ball well too. They have easily the two best players on the court in this one. This is probably the game I kind of analyzed the least and just really filled Kansas State right in on my bracket. So Montana State's probably going to win this one by 20 points now. But I do love the 8.5 cover for Kansas State. I think this one could get very ugly early and often. One of those games where it's like you're saying, Tony, might not even might not even be looking at. I think
Yeah.
it's that easily.
Right. What's crazy about the bracket when thinking about it, like if you were a team like Oral Roberts who had a great year, I mean, there's a lot of hype behind them. Wouldn't you rather be playing a Kansas State than a Duke?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you just feel like sometimes they don't reward the better teams in these situations. Like if you're Oral Roberts, you would much rather be playing another 5 seed like San Diego State, just more of your style of game, you know. But yeah, Montana State's not the 14 seed that I'm gonna have moving on here.
And even like when you're saying like rewarding teams, like you give Kansas the potential to play Arkansas, who had like the top recruiting class from this past year in the second round. Like some of the stuff in the bracket. I mean, everyone's gonna have a complaint about something, but
Right. Yeah.
some of these are kind of like Florida Atlantic on the 9. And I know we were kind of talking a little bit down about them, but still, you went 31-3, and then you get the right to play Purdue, who was for most of the year the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. You get to go guard Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We go to the 7-10 game now. One that I'm kind of puzzled at why this game is 12-15. This is 7 Michigan State versus number 10 USC. 12-15 on Friday on CBS. Michigan State, a 2-point favorite. Over under is 137.5. I'm going to go Michigan State, and it's not going to have that much to do with on the basketball court. It's kind of the outside factors. USC got put at a real disadvantage here with this game being a 12-15 tip in Cleveland. So that'll be like 11:15 their time. But this is a 9:15 a.m. body clock game for the Trojans, who haven't played east of the Mountain Time Zone since November 25th against Wisconsin down in the Battle of Atlantis over Thanksgiving break. I assume all week, like they're flying them out there. I would assume as soon as possible, but there might be rules like for travel about how soon you can get out there. But I assume they're going to be at least trying to get these kids up like earlier this week, practicing, get them adjusted to waking up that early. But this is a team I'm a little bit down on anyway. USC, I think they've kind of flew under the radar all year and might be getting in for just league purposes and just the brand of USC. But I love Michigan State first half money line. That might be one of the better plays of the tournament, just because, I mean, you know, Tony, waking up even at whatever to practice, like these guys are probably going to be up at what, 6:30, 6:15. Joe, this is like,
oh yeah, I mean, definitely they're going to be awake. Yeah, you'd probably say 12-15 game. These guys are probably going to be at the gym no later than 9:30.
yeah,
and they're gonna eat and probably shoot around or something before that. Like these guys are gonna be on like 3 o'clock West Coast time.
And Joe, this is like when USC a few years ago in the COVID year in football played at what, 9:15 local time.
Yeah, that was crazy. The Pac-12, they did that. It was insane. They were up at like 3 a.m. It was nuts.
Just you're not set up for success there.
Yeah, like and with it only being a 2-point spread, like overall, like I assume you could probably get Michigan State first half money line at like minus like 120, minus 130. That might be like if you want to put like a big bet down on the day. I really like that just because it's not going to be that big of a difference for Michigan State, an hour if that. But like it's pretty much a 9 a.m. your body clock tip. That's most of these kids are sleeping still by then. So I really like Michigan State in the first half, and I think that's going to carry them to a win full game as well.
Yeah, I like Michigan State here as well. I think Tom Izzo is incredible in March. And Michigan State they have some pieces. They really do when you look at them on paper. It's just they've kind of flown under the radar all year. They've won just enough in the Big Ten to get in here. But you got to watch out for there's always a sneaky Pac-12 team in the tournament that likes to hang around until the second weekend. Like we expect UCLA to get there. We expect Arizona to get there. Usually like an Oregon as an 11 seed will make a run and just end up in the Sweet 16 somehow. Or like you said earlier, Oregon State was in the Elite Eight.
I saw too USC Indy Enfield is 10-2 against a spread in opening round. So this is just a small spread. If you'd like that trend, I guess maybe even take just USC maybe to win outright. But that like I usually don't take the outside factors of what's going on, like besides the actual basketball itself into account. But I think this is a huge disadvantage for USC and something that
You're
could
right.
certainly come.
Yeah, that's a legitimate factor.
Yeah. And I mean, they always want to talk about player safety and stuff, like kind of has an impact if you're, having a West Coast team tip off at 12 o'clock. But even from just I'm taking Michigan State here, by the way. You guys kind of already touched on everything. But also just from in terms of like a viewership standpoint, I feel like they would want to put the team based out of Los Angeles at a later tip-off time than 12:15, Eastern time. That's just was surprising to me. I think Izzo's going to pass on that, and I'm definitely taking State.
Yeah.
There's another game that I noticed of that too. That's in the West. It's St. Mary's VCU, and it's a 2 o'clock tip in Albany, I believe. So it's still like only 11 o'clock, but St. Mary's hasn't played a game at 11 o'clock in the morning all season.
Yeah. Congrats, St. Mary's. We'll give you the 5 seed in Albany.
Yeah, exactly. Let's reward you for that. Give you the nice cross-country trek to play VCU's hell of a defense. But
yep,
it's another upset I potentially like that we'll talk about another episode. But all right, last game of the East region to break down in the first round. Number 2, Marquette, another team that's up there with, I think you could say, one of the top 5 hottest teams in the country right now. Been playing some really good basketball. Versus number 15, the Catamounts of Vermont. 2:45 tip on Friday on CBS. Marquette comes in. It's only an 11-point favorite. That's the smallest number of any of the 2 seeds. Over under is 145. Joe, do you think your Catamounts have a chance in this one?
I don't. I'll be honest. I just don't. I think Marquette's going to win here pretty handily. I could see this being one of those games, though, like Vermont just not quitting and like having like a back of 11 points. But, I mean, this is a Marquette team. We just saw Tyler Kolek and all those guys in the Big East tournament. They're not scared of Vermont. Vermont, had a down year by their standards. They were only 20-11 heading into the conference tournament. They're a 15 seed. Normally we see them around like the 13 line. Yeah. But give me the Golden Eagles here. I feel like this is going to be one of those games you throw on maybe the first 5-10 minutes, then Marquette's up big, and you never see it for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think – like Vermont's becoming like a really common theme here in the NCAA tournament as out of a conference who's only going to get the automatic qualifier. I think they play like a great brand of basketball. They're going to move the ball. It'll probably give Marquette some trouble, maybe the first 8 minutes of the game into that second TV timeout. And then I think you're just going to see Marquette out-talent them. They'll start flying up and down the court, getting transition layups off steals. And I wanted to touch on Shaka Smart. So you see this resurgence here with Marquette, and it's just weird. Like he had that span there where he's at Texas, and he just wasn't really successful down there. Do you think maybe he's a better coach and a better recruiter, scouter at like a lesser of a program like he was back in the day? Like maybe he's better at finding like a diamond in the rough and putting a team together rather than attracting a 5-star guy.
Yeah, when you look at all the guys he brought in at Texas, he was getting the 5-star one and dones. But you look at where he had success at VCU now, Marquette, none of those guys are NBA players or anything. So
right.
There's I was listening to the other day, like this entire group, the core that's like playing right now, I don't think any of them will leave early. And if they all want to stay at Marquette, they can all play another 2 whole seasons because of like COVID year and stuff. Cool. So come 2025, this team could like still be around and intact. Who knows with the transfer portal and whatnot these days, but if you're as good as they are right now and you're not leaving, continue to keep that thing rolling, like that's one of those teams that's like has a potential to be like a back-to-back champ or something. Right.
Yeah, definitely. You could see them next year being ranked inside the top 5 preseason. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I agree. It's like a better fit, and it's just a basketball school there, too. You don't have to compete in Texas, where I think they were a 3 seed or a 4 seed when they lost to Abilene Christian a few years ago, and then he left. And that, obviously losing that game's not ideal, but just the pressure there is too high sometimes for, I guess, what they're expecting and versus what I guess he was trying to maybe build long term. Because he was probably even pressured in to try and bring in some of those bigger 5-star guys.
Think about it. Like VCU, he is used to, and what he built there is like he's looking for 4-year guys and then you build a team after 2 or 3 years. You have, maybe 1 or 2 pieces from each class hit. Put them together, you have a good team. I mean, that's kind of what it is like at Marquette.
Same thing with Villanova.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yep.
You even look at those guys who got drafted, like Brunson, second-round pick, but he came in as a highly ranked recruit, but not much expected from him. DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, those are all guys who worked their way up. And then they had Javon Quinterly. He was like one of their top recruits. He didn't pan out there. Cam Whitmore kind of disappointed this year. It's where you go. You have to know, I guess, what you're kind of expecting.
Right. I mean, think about that too. Those 4-year, 3-year guys at Villanova, they're coming into the NBA. Sure, they're getting drafted later, outside of maybe Bridges, but they're ready to go right away. There's no he's going to be a 2-year project, stuff you hear like that with the one and done guys.
All right, well, our little side tangent there on Marquette. I'll continue the Marquette talk, though. I'm going to take them as this next part of the show is our Elite 8 prediction going to the Final Four. I'm going to take Marquette to represent the East region in the Final Four after beating Duke. As I said earlier, just a little bit ago, this Marquette team really grew on me this past week. But, Tony, we've talked about this off air before. They don't really have the elite shot maker down the stretch, which worries me. We saw that even in the win against UConn. They weren't getting good shots down the stretch. Just UConn wasn't able to capitalize on that. But they do have an elite point guard in Tyler Kolek, the Big East Player of the Year, who I trust to make big plays down the stretch. And I trust the ball in his hands down at the end of the game if it comes down to it. And this is a Marquette team, another group that went to the dance last year, lost round 1 to UNC, who eventually went on to the title. But as we talked about, a team that gained a lot of experience last year, able to kind of carry that into this year, use their recent good play and overall hot season. And I think that they go to MSG and they cut the nets down in the Elite 8, knocking off that young Duke team, and we see Marquette go to the Final Four.
Yeah, I actually have Duke over Marquette in the Elite 8 with Duke headed to the Final Four. I think obviously the toughest game for Duke to get there is going to be if they run into Purdue. Purdue's really tough to beat if their guards just make threes, because Duke will pack 5 guys in the paint and just make those young guards from Purdue knock down shots. I think they get past them, and like you said about Marquette, Duke has those guys down the stretch who have been go-to guys with Filipowski and Roach down the stretch of games, and I think that's why I will take them to beat Marquette. Like you said, I just don't. I mean, they lean on Kolek to make plays for them. And that has happened all year, but I just see that luck running out.
Kmetz?
I have Kansas State over Duke. I have the Wildcats going to the Final Four. Actually, my biggest upset of the tournament, I know we were talking so highly about Marquette. I have Michigan State upsetting Marquette in the round of 32 when I did my bracket. And that's just because I think it was the past 36 instances that there's been a team that started the season unranked and finished on the 1 or the 2 line. More than half of them have lost during the first weekend. So I think that could be either Purdue or Marquette this year. But I think Marquette, kind of one of those teams that had such a magical conference run, and kind of like what you guys were saying with their limitations. If they lean on Kolek a bit too much, UConn just forgot how to play offense for the second half of the game, for that those last 5 minutes when Marquette just couldn't score either. I mean, it was infuriating to watch because you had so many opportunities to take out Marquette, but that didn't happen. And I think Tom Izzo is one of those coaches that if that happens to them, let it slip. But I still think Kansas State. I think Keontae Johnson is going to have his one shining moment. I think he's going to lead the Wildcats to the Final Four. Even though this is the first time in a long time I can remember when I make my bracket, I went chalk the first round. Normally I have upsets. Even the 8 seed, I had Memphis. But I am going Kansas State here to advance to the Final Four. So naturally, I'm not going to get a single pick right, and everything's going to go shit. But give me the Wildcats.
Yes. So none of us wind up having the number 1 seed Purdue. We have a 5 prediction, a 3 prediction, and a 2 prediction. I guess you can really make an argument for most of these brackets that they're pretty open, but it wouldn't surprise me if Purdue made it. Wouldn't surprise me Memphis has the talent to, if they get some favorable draws, them to go. Tennessee, like there's the worst 4 seed in my opinion in this bracket in Tennessee. Wouldn't surprise me to see Kansas State go on a run, Kentucky, Michigan State. You never know what you're going to get out of them. It should be a really fun bracket to just soak it all in and see really what happens at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I think if Purdue plays like Purdue, I don't think they should lose.
Yeah.
But it seems like none of us think Purdue is going to play like they are capable of playing, which they've had a tendency to do this year and just lose games you would never think they should lose.
Yeah. Ever since the middle of the season, like around January, they'll be like every like 5 or 6 games, they'll have like one slip up where,
Yep.
you know, this you can't do that. And that's also why it might have been a good thing if they found a way to drop one of those games in the Big Ten, get like the loss out of the way and regroup for this. But here they are sitting there now. Should be a fun one to break down. But before we head out, Tone, give us your national title pick.
Oh, my national title pick this year is going to be Texas. I've been high on Texas all year. I think they're finally turning into like one of the best 5 teams in the country consistently. They got bigs now who are starting to score. Timmy Allen's finding his game a little bit. Tyrese Hunter's finding his game a little bit. And I think in that region with Houston, I think that's a really good matchup for them, as that's just going to be like a Big 12 game for them.
Mm-hmm,
And,
exactly.
they're tested there. So I'm going to roll with I actually like Texas to beat Alabama there.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for the East region bracket. Thank you, Tony, for coming on. We still have to break down
Thank you.
the South and the West as well. So looking forward to getting into those 2 brackets. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to tune into the other episodes, and we'll talk next time.